Hello and welcome to Warblog. Today we're looking at Al Qaim. It's an interesting scenario, mainly because it's basically Iraq and Syria against ISIS. So obviously, I could have said Iraq, Syria and renamed it, but you can figure it out. So it's not. It's all sort of classified, Iraq, but it's Iraq and Syria, and so you can sort of see there's Syrian forces, and then there's the Iraqi forces, and obviously the Islamic State. So there's lots of sort of permutations and things that you can derive from this, but it's sort of interesting because the Iraqis and the Syrians are sort of operating simultaneously, but as I sort of said in here, it's not certain if the actual assaults were coordinated. I'm not sure whether they're coordinating it or taking advantage of doing things at the same time. I haven't really read enough into it, but on face value, it's obvious that there's Iraqi and Syrian units going at it at the same time. But what it also sort of leads on to is sort of, well, if they're not crossing the border, you could have all of the ISIS units from here just go across the border over here, and would the Iraqis then cross over and follow and support the Syrians? They're probably unlikely to do it the other way around, mainly because if you go into play mode and look at the map, this is the Euphrates, which is uncrossable apart from here. Now this is Al Bukamal, and this is Al Qaim. So the Iraqis are going for Al Qaim, and the Syrians are going for Al Bukamal, and they've taken them now. So there's no sort of mysteries on that, and there never was really. They're just mopping up, but they haven't taken this side of the Euphrates. That is still sort of ISIS territory, but there's not really much there. And so obviously I think it goes without saying that a strategy would involve sort of a fallback to there. There's never really, haven't got much to fall back to there, but then going across here and creating a defence line there. It's not really that sort of battle. I think, I'm not sure what ISIS are doing, but I imagine that a lot of them are sort of looking for quick ways out now and sort of getting on buses, and it's not as though there's nothing to, it's not as though there's sort of like a major city anywhere around. This is sort of the last major city, I think, in Syria or something like that. Anyway, not worried too much about sort of those sorts of details. So we're going to play it. Obviously, we've got some air power. The front line, essentially, a bit vague on how it was, so I'd sort of maybe just guessed, but it's sort of, we're saying at this stage it's like that. And so all this is ISIS territory. So this road is not obstacled. It doesn't have sort of concrete blocks and huge tracks of it been dug up, as we have here, here and here on the Iraqi side. And so that's really just slow down any obvious advance. Obviously you can go around it, so it's not really going to be that critical. It's not as though there's sort of like large tracts of mines or anything, but the objectives are all fortified, so that can make it a little tougher. So I don't think there's really much to sort of consider about strategy. Obviously there's these two units to contend with first from the Syrian side, and essentially everything is pretty much sort of in place for direct assaults. So what we're going to have to try and do here is somehow take out both these units and obviously create a front line there to push forward. But here, similar sort of thing to push there, similar thing here to push there. So it's all sort of pretty much set out by where things are, so there's not really much to do that can be seen sort of different really. you know, I mean, I don't really even think there's any possibility of doing things in any sort of varied way. So we'll just get on with it. So let's look at this one first. So we've got 3 mechanised, 2 motorised, an armour and a tank. And the Syrians have got some air power. So does the air power want to first start attacking into there or there? Now, one thing to just sort of say, obviously we talked about the retreat, but we also have quite a lot of reserves, and so you, as the ISIS player, you'd be thinking, do I want to bring these reserves over and somehow commit them? So it's sort of like a massive fight, and that would be a sort of strategic decision, or is everything going to try and retreat over the Euphrates and to save losses? So you could play it both ways. Now I'm wondering whether to use my air power on this stack or whether to try and actually damage these units. 1, 2, 3, 1. Difficult because they're irregular, so they're more likely to run away anyway. So what I think I'm going to do is use the more mobile elements. I mean, they're all mobile. They've all got 6s apart from the artillery. So let's just move this artillery once there. Oops. Okay. Let me pause that, get rid of that. Okay. So that's just a Java pop-up that I use when I'm troubleshooting certain things, as I had been recently. So anyway, he's moved. He's got 1.2, so you can't really move any further. I think I'm going to basically use the artillery onto this stuff here. One minute. Actually, I can't actually even figure out what happened there. I'm not sure whether anything did happen. I think I moved and somehow it gave me a pop-up. That pop-up doesn't seem to exist now, and it could be that it just needed to refresh the page, which I hadn't done. Because I can't find anything extra. Anyway, so what was I thinking? Well, I can even use the artillery on one of these. I think I'm going to use the artillery on this one because it's more aloof over there on the flank. 1.1, that's quite nice because it's quite hard to damage the irregulars, so the artillery is always a good way of doing that. So everything else is quite mobile. Okay, I'm going to use a mechanised and a motorised. I'm doing it there. Oh, hang on, what do I want to do? It's 1.5. So if I can get there, that would be good. There. And some motorised. Now I'm keeping them stacked together so that he can't attack me. Because if this was on its own as a small company, the irregulars would be able to attack at a 1-to-1, which is not brilliant, but at the moment there's no way the irregulars can attack that stack. That would be at 1-to-4, so that's just for defensive. But the reason I've done that, just let me get my little mouse tool out, is because this is obviously a zone of control, so he'll only be able to retreat here, here or here, and I could possibly put that into a zone of control, restricting his retreat options favourably. If I'd just gone into here, he could have retreated to there, which would not have been good. I mean, it's just little things, but that's why I've done that. I've got 4 units here, so I'm going to split that up like that. Now I'm guessing that I will get a retreat on that. So that's the Syrian move. So let's just see what that sort of results in. Yep, DE, but he retreated. So he's gone to one of the 2 hexes we knew he could go to. Not enough movement to follow up. And similarly, might as well move with everything. Another DE, and this time we actually destroyed him. I feel I need to keep reiterating this for the people that maybe aren't familiar with the more intricate rules, but irregular units, they suffer sort of from retreats, etc., but on a defender eliminated, there's only 75% chance that that actual effect will take effect, or an 80% chance or something like that. It's in the rules. We got a DE on both of these units. This one obviously passed and retreated, but this one was actually destroyed, which is really nice. It's good when that happens. That's why these irregulars are irregulars, because they can cause these sort of blocking actions that make it quite slow to advance and make them quite strong, whereas these more regular units would just be destroyed because they're preparing to fall back. But obviously this one they failed, and it's the stronger head as well. So I don't think we've got enough to start moving forward though. So that's the Syrian move, and it's quite nice for them. Here, well, we've got to be careful about that, so we can move there and at least fire some artillery into here. 0.55. Okay, well, it's an interesting situation here. Let me just get the mouse tool out to maybe, not mission critical, but this obviously is an obstacle in the road. So if you move into that hex, you stop. So this artillery needs to be defended, but I've only got 2 units here. So if I was to move there, 1, 2, 3, and be able to attack, and fail for some reason, the regular could move there, and attack my artillery. So obviously I can move 1, 2, 3 to there, and then that would mean that the irregulars wouldn't really be able to get to my artillery, although they could go there, and attack. So it's not foolproof, but they can't go there, into there, and attack. Unfortunately, I can't really protect my artillery any better, other than just sitting with it. However, I think if I go there, and there, and attack, I will at least force him to go there, or there. And if he goes there, he's still in range, but if he goes there, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm pretty sure that's as far as they can move. So basically, I'm just highlighting that as a sort of permutation of how this sort of manoeuvre could work. I'm not really sure that there's any major significance to it, other than constant awareness that you need to constantly be aware of protecting your artillery, because otherwise the irregulars will overrun it. But I'm hoping to destroy this unit. And it looks like, no I didn't, and they went to the worst place. Okay, they can ignore zones of control as well. If they move into there, they stopped, so they could go 1, 2, 3, they could possibly get my artillery. Possibly, but they're on 2.55. So they might be on a 2 to 1. It's always a risk. Here, we've got some artillery. .8 damage. I couldn't do that if I tried. But anyway. Three units. Move the armour into there. And I'm going to move around this way to get the flank and also to control his retreat into there. DE, but he retreated into there. Russians 2.8. So we've got 3 here. We've got some artillery. Again, we'll use that to pound these irregulars. 0.95. It's interesting that, you know, they are slowing things up, but possibly just as much as anything else. But you know, it's the difference between that fact that low number units, you know, only 1 strength, but can put up a rolling withdrawal. Obviously, they take damage and depressions as a result, and after a while would rout. You know, it does seem to sort of work, you know, in a different way to how these units would take a rolling retreat like that. Okay, well, this is a zone of control. So 1, 2, 3. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push everything here, because he won't be able to retreat there. I've got the same problem, and really I should basically add small infantry units to go around with the artillery, because this artillery is vulnerable and so is this one now. But let's see what we can do here. Oh, a DR. Okay. .95. Okay, and we've got the last thing to do is this air power, and I think the no-brainer is to attack that stack there. Okay, well, that's some reasonable damage. Right, so end the turn. Now obviously we've talked about the Syrian and Iraqi strategies. We haven't really talked about the ISIS strategy. I'm not sure whether there is really much of an ISIS strategy other than the spoiling attacks that can be done against these artillery units. Now the question is, do I actually want to do it? Because I'm not sure that I'm really going to... You should be able to get there and attack. And to be quite honest, it would be a big pain. But I don't think that the Iraqis, and so the ISIS player, really has much choice on top of all of that, other than they do have some insurgents somewhere, I'm sure. I'm not going to play this all the way through, so... I don't want to make a stonker out of it. And I think, as I always say, but just in case anyone's the first time watching the video, it's very different playing when you're videoing it like this, because you can't just sort of stop it and wander off and have a think and come back to it and sort of, you know, there's sorts of things that you might want to do. But we've got some insurgents in here, and I'm not sure whether or not it's going to be best to bring them over against the Iraqis. Sorry, the Iraqis or the Syrians. I'm tempted to bring them over against this. I'm not even sure that they're available. And I think I messed up on that. They're not available. Okay, well that's that. Let me think. What can I do? Oh, we've got some insurgents there, but they're not available either. No. Okay. Okay, well let's try out this. See, there are only 3. They have no movement. Look at that. They've got not enough movement to do that. And the same here, 1, 2, 3, because they've only got 3 movement. 1, 2, 3. I didn't think of that. They should really be motorized. I mean, do we have any motorized irregulars? It just comes down to the draw when I start pulling units out of the chip pool, so to speak, out of the folder. So obviously the artillery is quite safe. So in that knowledge, they're just going to move there to become irritating. Going to move these units here to become irritating. These ones are going to go there. And I think we're going to commit some of these irregulars. Now what I'm doing here essentially is just making it very awkward. Okay, so I've got some rockets in there. Are they in range of anything? Yes. 0.9, 0.7, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they were actually. The range thing's not as good as it could be. We've got rockets here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't think they can hit anything. Nope. Okay. They shouldn't be able to hit anything there. Sometimes it's, yeah, they can. Okay, well, as soon as we can, let's go for it. Okay, 3 damage, that was good. So they're really pummeling on that first, on the mechanised unit below, 3.4 depression. You see, that's one of the things about delaying forces going forward, and let's just make that even clearer, is that you can keep them in artillery rocket range for longer periods. Irregulars. You leave the motorised units over, but you leave the rockets there. Some rockets here as well. Let's go for this stack here. .7. And I always find it interesting to watch the videos of things that they've captured. And ISIS seem to have a lot of an absolute ton of mortar rounds they create, and to some extent rockets. They make them themselves, so it's not surprising that if you approach them, you come under a barrage of mortar and rocket fire, because they can make that. And I don't think they're as good at making artillery rounds. I don't know why. It's possible that it's just because the delivery systems, the actual cannons, are harder to make and maintain, whereas the mortars and rockets are pretty simple, just tubes. I imagine. I don't know everything about them, but so we can do some attrition rolls. I'm not going to spend too much time doing the attritions because I don't think anything's going to happen. They're just too small. Okay, so we've got irregulars here. .2 damage. Well, that's good. So we want some damage against these. How it works. Okay. Well, we've taken some damage, which is the name of the game. It's a lot of effort to and of course once you start pounding them, okay, we've managed to get rid of that stack now. Once you start pounding them, they get easier and easier. And he's been hit. Depression 0. Oh, what's this? Depression? Depression nothing. Depression 1. Depression nothing. Okay, well, we're going to move ahead in the knowledge that the rocket fire is going to continue. Well, let's use the artillery on here. Or rather, let's use it. Can we get that? Possibly. Ooh. 1.4, 1.7. So those rocket units are being hit. And let's see if we can hit them again with some air power. Yep, 1.3, 0.9, so that's quite successful really. Okay. Oh. Really, I'm in two minds about how to do this. I think we're just going to go for it. DE, that pushes him back. If we move forward, that will at least... Let's see what we can do here first. DE, I think he retreated to there. Let's get another DE there. Another attack there. Okay. And then he retreated to there, so we've got movement wise. That was pretty stupid really, should have moved and then attacked. Yeah, that was stupid. Oh well. We've got, I think we moved to there. Okay, so that's the Syrian side, so obviously pushing these units back. Okay. Some artillery. 0.65. It's pushing up to 3.2. I'm gonna attack from stationary and hope that I'll get another move. And it looks like he got eliminated, which is convenient. However, I'm going to be very careful about this, which is now available. But in theory I shouldn't really know about it. And I sort of want to plough along this road. But I can't really afford to let that just sit there. At 3 against 0 it should be 7 to 1. And a DE, so that's gotten rid of that. Okay. But no more movement left. I realise that I'm exposed to irregular counter-strike. DR on 11 pushes him back to there. Okay. Now that's a pain. There's a 1.95. DR. Yeah, that's interesting because that was the one space that you could have gone. No zone of control in there. Hmm. 2.95. I don't really want to use my artillery on it, but I feel like pushing for a rout. 1.45 puts him up to 4.4. Let's use this other one on that. 1.45, so he's now routable. 8.5%. .8, nothing. Well, that's all I'm going to need. DR. Okay. DE. Okay, so they've pushed themselves back there. 2 and 4. Interesting. Let's see where he retreats. Look at that, perfect. Retreat there and there. We've got a little bit of movement, so which one of these? 4.8, 3, but he's more dangerous. And plus I think I've still got this unit here which can do something. 7 to 1 a DR. Pushes him back there. I don't think we've got any more movement or capability of that nature at all. Okay. Well, these units are going to deal with that, possibly him. Use all that to deal with this little guy. Whereas these ones I think are going to try and push along this road. DE. Okay, so he retreated. DE, pushing him back even further. No movement. No movement. Okay. So that's the Iraqi-Syrian turn. Pushing things back nicely, but I think taking a bit of damage over here on this second mechanized unit. Possible exposure of this artillery unit from two irregular units. Oh, this insurgent retreated to there with depression 2. So they could slip through there, but here's depression 3, depression 2. I could possibly attack that and, like, sort of, 7 to 1. I could do that. No movement. No movement. 0.4. 0.5. So there's nothing you can do to stop that. Okay, well, I'm just going to move on to the ISIS turn now. So they're still trying to cause as much chaos as they can. And I think they're going to try that 0.6 movement with their limited move. Let's see what they can do. Got rockets as well. Let's see what they can do with this. Look at that. They stormed straight through there and took out that artillery unit. I keep trying to think I've got to protect that artillery. You've got to keep it above 5, otherwise they get their multipliers. Okay, so the Syrians have taken a proper loss there. They didn't want to lose their artillery. It's because I'm playing on the video and really I'm just not thinking fully. Artillery should be the most important thing on the table, and because it's slow moving, you sort of forget it. The impulse of galloping around with these fast moving units, and that's just stupid of me. Well, we're going to move him over here to irritate those units. We're going to use this insurgent unit to attack this unit here. Insurgent action succeeded. Look at that, 6.4. So they could have been flying around with one of those drone things and they just dropped a load of, and they're going to run away now. Oops, make sure I've got the right one, because yep, it's that one. So I'm going to push him back there. leave him there so I can remember that he's been used. So we've got more irregular units now. But not only that, we've got artillery, rockets, and we've got 3 of them. So ISIS could really be attacking the Syrians here. You know, he's on 30% rout probability now, and he's routed. And just for the hell of it, they're going to continue onto this one. 3.1. So, I mean, the headlines would be reading something, and now he's on his own. DE. So the headlines will be reading something like massive counter-strike by ISIS, leads to devastating losses on Syrian Arab army forces. Maybe I should just give them more troops. I do remember their Tiger forces were involved, so maybe I should add them. I think what we've seen there is sort of, it's more down to the way I've been playing it, and the sense that, you know, I keep saying that it shouldn't really be played like that. The advance should be far more cautious and slow, using the artillery to do anything that's within reach, and, you know, just not moving faster than the artillery. You're going at the pace of the artillery. I mean, pushing these units forward, it just gave those opportunities to the ISIS player. And plus, there's also the actuality of the game balance, which I'm not sure is necessarily that balanced based on what we've just seen there. But, you know, I could leave it like that. I think I will have the Tiger forces just to give the Syrians just another unit to move around and to have available. But you know, I mean, the problem I've got is that I don't play them enough. You know, it's not that I'm going to play this 10 times and then sort of say, well, actually, after 10 goes, I realise that, you know, this is how it works and this is the balance of things. You know, I'm pretty sure you could play this quite a few times and then sort of come to the conclusion that maybe the ISIS force is too strong and that it's virtually impossible to beat it. But at the same time, that's not necessarily the case. But those rockets are what changed things over here. I mean, they damaged the mechanised units early on with some good rolls, and then they were able to rout that unit again with the rockets, but that meant that the second mechanised unit was then on its own, making it vulnerable to irregular assaults, and so that, you know, basically they've lost, you know, the main bulk of their army or their battle group in this area, along with their artillery. So it all just goes around to the same thing, really. But so that's that. I mean, now you've got to really even consider whether or not the Syrians actually have any possibility of continuing their advance. I mean, the only thing that they've got in their favour now is that they can at least stack up. You know, their regulars are not going to really be able to attack this. I mean, they'd need a lot of units just to get even a 1-to-1. But they've got rockets, you see, whilst they're in that rocket range. So what they should have done really is just use their air power to take these rockets out, figure out where they were coming from, and take them out. And just not done anything until the rockets were gone. Have I moved all of the Iraqis? Oh no, it's the ISIS turn, isn't it? And over here, what options do they have? You see, that's stacked up, but the thing is, it's stacked up to 5, and that's stacked up to 5. And he's at 5.85. He's going to stay there, I think. I think what we're going to do here Okay. Plus we've got some insurgents. Let's get these insurgents in there. We also had that successful insurgent role as well on the Syrians. Failed. Okay. Move them back into there. Let's fire some rockets in there first. 0.3, and this should be possibly a 2 or 3 to 1. 3 to 1, DR. See again the risk I took of splitting this unit up. However, I'm not going to go any further, not for any particular reason. I don't think it's settled there, but I think it's certainly sort of panned out, not quite as I expected. Cautionary tale for careless, advances. Trying to play to a to a speedy deadline. I think. I'd like to play it again, but I don't want to commit another hour to doing it again. But I think it's definitely interesting. I definitely think that the Iraqi Syrian forces could beat ISIS if they just do things properly, and don't make the mistakes that were over here. All these mistakes. And again, it's one of these things where you sort of say, well, if you play it through properly, you come back and you realise the correct way to play it would be to focus on the rocket power that they've got first. For example, I watched just last night the Mind Play scenario. It's a Vietnam scenario. And I watched it through. It was about 50 minutes, and I just was trying to fall asleep. And it's fascinating, really. And you sort of think, well, it suddenly became an enormity of a game, even though it's quite small. And it's just like this. You sort of think, well, once you start focusing on it, because I do so many games, they lose their perspective or scale in the sort of their enormity in the shadow of all the other games, so to speak. Whereas if you actually look at this, you could spend quite a lot of time just dealing with this one scenario and its implications and whatnot. I think what I keep coming back to in my mind's eye is I somehow feel that these smaller games are sort of a bit of a what's it called when you sort of an easy option to create the smaller games. But the plain May Vietnam game, which I'm referring to, it was just as small, and but it's just interesting, and it's one of these things that I say time and time again across a lot of my videos, is that these are what I call money shots, so to speak. I mean, you might play a big game, or what you call a monster game, where you've got hundreds of hexes to move across, and you choose your battlefield because you make strategic decisions on where you deploy and move your troops. For example, you might move them along one road or along another, which means when you engage the enemy, you're in a completely different situation. That's what we might call ultimate strategy. I wouldn't consider it sort of more operational. That is sort of what I call ultimate strategy, whereas the strategy we got here is more sort of lower level strategy. It's not quite tactics, but depending on how you sort of want to define all these sorts of terms. But here what we've got is, it doesn't matter whether or not the grand strategy of that I was just sort of referring to is whether you go down one road or we go down another, and your choice of where you meet the enemy is irrelevant, because when it gets down to it, you meet the enemy at some point, and that point can be defined in a very small map like this. These are what I call the money shots of hex counter gaming. You end up with something just like this. This could have been the battle of our choosing. We could have been playing on a map 10 times this size and chased ISIS to this point, and this could be the result of that battle. But it just seems like a little mini game, and when you just look at it, you think, well, that's no fun. But it is. It's absolutely loads of fun. There's loads of minute decisions. But some people call them just problem solving and not as interesting. But I don't really agree with that. Obviously they're problem solving, but it's not like Sudoku. you know, in the sense that there are so many, you know, that's the nature of sort of strategy in this context. The military backdrop this gives it sort of certain perspective, which, you know, I feel that is central to what appeals to war games, really. I mean, you know, this could be a medieval game or an ancients game or a Napoleonics game, and it would all be the same, but you know, I think with Napoleonics you have to have a deeper understanding of, say, Napoleonic techniques and strategies, and things play a lot differently. I mean, you certainly, well, I don't want to get too bogged down in that argument because I haven't really thought it through, but you certainly wouldn't have artillery units firing as far, you know, if it was sort of this scale, etc., etc. The perception is slightly different, and, you know, so we've come to establish, you know, a sort of a suspension of disbelief in this sort of sense of how this kind of you know, military war game works, and within the confines of that, at its scale, it provides, you know, essentially I consider it to be, you know, a significant and worthwhile intellectual challenge, you know, which is what it's supposed to be. You know, I just thought I'd sort of say that. So you could play this game, you know, multiple times, and I think, you know, this is just the first playthrough, so it doesn't really do a full scale of it justice. So if I was to be presenting a proper video, I might sort of say, well, you know, I've played this 10 times, and really these are the things that you want to be watching out for, you know, taking out this artillery and doing things properly or in accordance with the benefit of hindsight and experience. And experience is a big thing that I'm quite keen on. You know, getting to grips with the concept of experience, you know, working from experience. You know, it's how a lot of people sort of look at Gettysburg. You know, they've got hindsight and what, you know, what boils down to experience and an understanding of you know, things. I mean, I don't know a huge amount about all these things, but I know Pickett's charge, and you sort of think, now was that really a good idea? Well, I don't know. I mean, you know, it's, again, I don't want to comment too much on that particular action, but you know, obviously Lee, I think it was, thought it was a good idea, and did it, and lost the, you know, the American Civil War. So, you know, playing the game for the first time, essentially, to some extent, is you playing as a leader, but you wouldn't do a lot of these things. You'd be more cautious. That's what they're doing. It's why Iraq's Syrian progress is quite slow, because they are going cautiously, because there's no need. You know, this isn't the Eastern Front or something like that in World War II. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. All I want to say is I just love these games. I think they're fantastic little puzzles, so to speak, that bring joy and pleasure for years to come. And, you know, if you feel that you can complete this, then sign up and give it a go. It shouldn't take you too long. Okay, I'll speak to you later. Cheers, bye.